Okay, verses 20 and 23 as we quickly wrap up here. It says, since you died with Christ to the elemental spiritual forces of this world, why, as though you still belong to the world, do you submit to its rules? Do not handle, do not taste, do not touch. These rules, which have to do with things that are all destined to perish with use, are based on merely human commands and teachings. Such regulations indeed have an appearance of wisdom with their self-imposed worship, their false humility, and their harsh treatment of the body, but they lack any real value in restraining sensual indulgence. So he says, since we came to Christ and put our complete faith and trust in Christ, why would we be tempted to begin to put our faith and trust in our actions or in our self-denial? If you aren't willing to trust in Jesus for salvation, then people are only left with trusting in themselves. You ask the average person, the typical unbeliever, why they think they're going to heaven, they'll give you an answer that reveals depending on themselves. Well, I'm a good person. I've never killed anyone. I'm better than most. I've done this. I've done that. Right? So what these false teachers were saying is, don't do that. Don't taste that. Don't touch that. And Paul says that the rules of the heretics are all temporary, earthly things, not spiritual or eternal values. And Paul says that their rules are human commands and not from God. And yet that kind of living looks good, doesn't it? Looks good. Okay? Don't smoke, don't chew, don't go with girls that do. Wow. He's a good guy, right? He's a good guy. That's the kind of man you should grow up to be, right? That kind of living looks godly. Most of us would probably look at one of these heretics and think, wow, that is a very godly person, because they avoid all of this stuff. That's why it leads to the sin of self-righteousness, which cuts us off from Christ. And that's why it looks desirable to others who want to be spiritual. But Paul says that what really happens is that in trying to deny ourselves, self becomes bigger and becomes the center of our spirituality.